Welcome to The Adult Table, a podcast where we sit down with people in the STEM community. We set the virtual table to bring in a diverse set of guests to engage in a casual conversation on a professional career and life.
With this podcast, we hope that we can bridge the gap between the hierarchy involved with growing up. We can redefine what it means to be able to figuratively sit at the adult table.
I'm one of your co-hosts, Jason Chin.
And I'm your other co-host, Jenny Chung.
So today we have our great friend from New York City, former SACE Northeast Regional Manager, fellow Nick Lifer, the man with the most riz. We got Wesley Chow. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Jenny. Thank you for having me, Jason. Appreciate it. I've been a longtime fan of the Adult Table. Yeah, no, I mean, granted, I wasn't there from the beginning, but I started about halfway through from episode 5 onwards.
That's pretty cool.
Day of release listener. So I don't waste a beat. I don't waste a beat listening to it.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Well, fun fact: Wes was actually earlier podcaster or earlier SACE podcaster than Jenny and I. That is RPI days.
You can easily find that on YouTube. I looked it up.
This is some dark history you're trying to pull up. We're going to go up by 1,000 views afterwards, and the YouTube video is going to pop off for no reason.
Heck yeah. Yeah, if you want to see what Wes looked like 4 years ago, or what he sounded like 4 years ago, take a quick look. There's at least like 10 episodes up there.
Yeah, we had total of 14 episodes, but we only got onto YouTube after number 5 or number 6. So there's still a good amount on there, but thank God the earlier ones with all the mistakes are not on there. So we're good.
That's right. The first few are always tough. I think we recorded one with Stefan, and he was supposed to be our first or second guest.
And we scrapped it.
And then we scrapped the whole episode, and then we had him on like a month later, kind of get all the butterflies out, get a little more comfortable.
Yeah, the learning pains, but no, that's how it rolls.
Yeah, but I know we kind of just jumped quickly into the podcast that you hosted before, but do you want to just kind of give the listeners a brief introduction of who you are and what led you to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. For our virtual Spotify and YouTube listeners, my name is Wesley Chow. Born and raised in New York City. Been here all my life, and I'm still here. I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, RPI for short, for my undergrad. Graduated with information technology and economics as a dual. Been with my local SACE chapter at RPI for pretty much all 4 years. Started as a freshman rep, worked my way up to chapter president. Once I got that out of my system, I decided to make that big leap over to the Northeast team. And from there, climbed the ranks again from regional coordinator all the way up to regional manager, where I was last year. So now I'm happily retired. I did my dues. I paid my dues. Did my time with SACE, and I'm now 1 year off, and now I'm back on the Adult Table podcast, my favorite podcast to listen while I do dishes and do work. So I'm so happy to be on. But yeah, that's a little background about me. And my little history.
Cool. Thanks, Wes. Yeah, I did a little LinkedIn stalking as well, and I saw that I also heard from Jason that you're also like a consultant for your job. Do you want to explain what that is? What do you do?
Yeah, very simply, like, what is consulting in general,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big word. You say consultant, and everyone's like, what is that, right? And the answer most people will give is, it's going to be, it depends, right? We wear a lot of hats. We do a lot of things that aren't a part of the job description, and sometimes I'm sitting there wondering, like, man, I didn't sign up for this. I don't know anything about this. But that's part of the consulting journey, is that you're thrown into any project where people need you, clients need you, and you gotta learn as much as you can in a short amount of time and suddenly become experts at it. And you really got to pick it up. It's fast paced. You're jumping from client to client. For me specifically, my company is Simpulse Management Consulting. I do a lot of management and strategy consulting, which is I'm helping companies figure out what the hell they want to do. right?
Mm.
And it seems pretty straightforward, but sometimes they don't know what they're doing, and I don't know what I'm doing. We gotta hold hands and cross that line together, right? So that's kind of my job. Is I work a lot within the finance industry, a lot of banking, wealth management, investments. So that's kind of where I currently sit right now. I recently just got off a big project about a few months ago. I'm currently on the bench, just sitting, and I have another project lined up, actually starting next week. So this is my last week of free time before I have to commute back to office, and
Dang.
back to work.
You hate to see
Gotcha.
it.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, Wes, I know you mentioned being on the bench, and I know we talked about it before, but can you kind of just describe what being on the bench really means and kind of how you spend your time?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the bench, it's not the worst place. I know a lot of good Knicks players get benched too early, too often. But in consulting, what being on the bench means that you are in reserve. You don't have an active project that you're contracted out to as of yet, but you're sitting in there, you're waiting in reserve. Usually, most of the time, you have a contract already in the works, but due diligence and process takes its time, especially with banks and investment banks. They take forever to get anything done.
Mm.
Contracts usually take about 2 to 3 months to finalize, going through legal, procurement, and whatnot. So I'm one of the lucky ones. I have something lined up as soon as I quit. Not quit, but my contract ended previously. So I had something lined up, and it was just 2 months worth of downtime where I get to relax, put my feet up, and take it a little bit easy.
Gotcha. So usually from what I hear from consulting, it's like, oh, people are scrambling to find their next one if they don't have something lined up because is there like a dedicated amount of time where like you're just let go
Yeah,
potentially if you don't find something?
so my company, and bless them, we were an interesting bunch. We're a lot smaller than your usual consulting groups where they got thousands and thousands of people per office. We only have about 2,000 people globally and about 50 people in the New York office. So we're a very, very small company. And unlike other consulting companies where you really have to pitch yourself and sell yourself as a consultant, selling your skills and your knowledge to a client and then they pick you. We have managers or contract account holders where they get to pick who they want to staff on their account, on their contract. So I
Mm.
get all the hard work, taken out of it for me. So I get to just relax, and I know my manager very well, and we're very close. So
Mhm.
she already has me on like 5 different contracts. It's whoever wants to take me up as at the highest point for the contract. Then I'll get sold off. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's kind of how it works. A little bit different for me at least.
Gotcha.
Okay. Did you feel like there was like a really big like vetting process like to get to a company like this? Just because you mentioned like the company being smaller and that the contracts are kind of, or I guess there's like an easier flow to that. Was it harder to get your foot in the door in the first place?
In some ways, yes. I do think that there was a bit of a challenge to really break into a company like this where, it's so much smaller. But it really was something that I really wanted to be a part of. I did a few internships here and there, back in, when I was still in college, where I was a part of a very large company.
Mhm.
And it felt I didn't enjoy it all too much, right? Where everyone didn't really know what you did. You had people in different departments on the same floor who sat within 100 feet of each other, but I didn't know what the guy 2 blocks, 2 desks over did. But here at
Hmm.
this company, you really get to know everyone. You really get to be involved in a lot of different initiatives internally, and that was a part which made was really easy for me when I was interviewing because with such a small company, they really want to make sure that you're not just smart, you know your stuff, but that you're a person that's people would enjoy working with, right? Because it's so
Hmm.
small, you're definitely going to bump into the same person multiple times while you're still at that company. So a
Mhm.
lot of the emphasis was placed on personality, how personable you are, and how well you work with others. And I think I would like to say that I play that off very well, but I'll leave that to the jury to pick on that.
Yeah, what do you think, Jason? You think he's
I don't know. I'm just trying to imagine a company with 50 Wesses in the office, and I'm like, how does stuff get done over
Oh
there?
no, it's beer night every night.
But I'm also curious. Yeah, thank you for your insight on that. I'm curious about how you wanted to go into consulting in the first place. I feel like that's not really like something that people say like, oh, I want to go into consulting, like from college. Is that something you were looking into prior already, like when you were deciding your major and stuff like that? Because you studied IT, right?
hmm Yeah, no, it was a weird journey for me. It all started, not when I was born, but when I was picking colleges when I was in high school. Now, everyone during high school, they were struggling. SATs were done,
Right.
right? And you're doing what's the common
Oh
application.
yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's struggling, like, what do I do? What do I do? Right? I knew, pretty early on that like I want to do something in tech. Right. I like tech. Tech is the future, right? It's definitely got to be something on, a computer. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's got to be something, involving electronics and my laptop, and they get paid a lot of money. I like that. That was my two bullet points I had in my head as I was applying. And I actually applied to RPI in computer science.
Hmm.
Um, and I did a brief stint in that, no, started off just in computer science. So I got in, did my orientation, new freshman, activities and whatnot. And within a week, I bumped into a few people. I was networking on campus, just chatting up people, and I bumped into an older fellow who became my mentor later down the line. His name's Mohammed. We call him Mo. And Mo, he was IT, and he really sold me on it. He's like, well, IT. He gave me a very wonderful metaphor. He says IT is to computer science as electrical engineering is to physics. Physics is the study of the theory, how it works, why it works, while electrical engineering is the application of that theory. Same thing
Hmm.
with IT and computer science, where computer science, you study the theory, why it works, how it works, right? While IT is the application of it. And I'm like, that's a great metaphor, right? And I'm like, oh, I like that a lot. So I listened to him, and he encouraged me to join ITWS,
Mm.
which stands for Information Technology and Web Science.
Hmm.
Long name, mouthful. It's terrible to put on a resume. It takes up way too much space. But I picked up IT as a secondary, as a dual major pretty early on. I think within the first month of me being on campus, which was amazing. But after a year of being on computer science, doing all the hard coding courses, I thought to myself, man, I hate this. This is terrible. I'm stuck with all these people who are just that much smarter to me. They're able to code, they understand the code, and they're able to crank it out like a little code monkey in a closet. They type away for bananas, right? And they don't care about anything. I was like, man, I can't compete against that. It's too much pressure, and I didn't understand it too much. So at the end of my freshman year, start of sophomore year, I went to my advisor and said, like, hey, I'm dropping CS. I'm keeping only IT. And my advisor, God bless her, name was Linda. Linda, she was amazing. And she said, well, why don't you pick up something, a dual? You've already put in the work, and you're very ambitious. So why not, pick something that you would be interested, something else? I'm like, okay, what would be easy? So I read through the booklet, read through the pamphlet, and I picked up, so economics was pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And who doesn't love money? I like money. So why not, right? So I did the rest of my undergraduate with IT and economics. But throughout that, IT, there was two real main paths that you could really follow. One is either you continue to go into programming, web development, app
Mm.
development, really go hard on the development, or you could pivot into project management. And the way our classes were held in IT is you were given a project at the start of the semester, put into groups, and you would function as like a mini, coding team. You would have front end developers, back end developers, and project managers. And obviously, I took on the project manager role because I hated coding. And I realized, man, this is great. I get to boss people around. I get all the credit at the end. Like, this is amazing, right? But as time grew on, as I was continuing with sales and IT, I realized I really enjoy working with people. And that was the number one top priority for me was I want to be in a job that works with people. right? I want to be people facing. I want to talk to people. I want to, help them figure out stuff, plan out meetings, plan out agenda, timelines. And that really spoke to me as, someone who's able to organize stuff and really help people manage and direct resources and where they wanted to go with their work. And that's kind of where I liked, enjoyed a lot. But what really brought me into consulting was, I think, in senior year, there was this company, Accenture. They put out this challenge, this boot camp, where they had students, seniors, or however what grade, would go over to Boston and to their corporate headquarters, and for a 2-day weekend activity, you would be given a challenge, this problem that Accenture has, and you would have to come up with a pitch and present it to 4 C-suite executives the next day. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is terrifying. Like, what am I going to do? So I brought a buddy with me from RPI. We went there and immediately walk in the room. We're underdressed. We look scuffled as hell because we got people from Harvard. We had people from Berkeley. We had people from Northeastern as well. I mean, it's like, oh my God, we're completely outgunned. Like, well, what are we going to do? These guys, they've been training their whole life. They know how to make slide decks. They know how to make pitches. And me and my buddy, he's a freshman.
Oh
Right? So
no.
it's just the two of us against no top guns all over. We were severely the underdog, but through a lot of work, a lot of hands-on, learning from the on-site mentor who was an employee at Accenture, we really put together a great deck, a great pitch, and we went up the next day. C-suite, all 4 of them sat up there. We presented. And afterwards, I had 2 of the C-suite executives come up to me and say, Wes, you got amazing stage presence. Like you commanded the crowd. You knew what to say. Like you made it super engaging. You're a great storyteller. And I got an offer right there on the spot from one of them to join, once I graduate. I'm like, you know what? This is interesting. I never gotten a compliment like that about my stage presence, my crowd control. And that got me really interested. Like, well, if I'm this good at it, what else is there? And that led me on to researching consulting and seeing where I can really go from there.
That's pretty cool. Well, I mean, other things you could do with stage presence is perform.
I have been told I would be a
Go into the
great
art.
clown. I would be a great circus clown, so I don't doubt that.
Wait, so then you didn't end up taking the job offer at the end, right?
No, I didn't take it. Just no, I didn't want to take the first thing thrown at me. And it was also an internship, not a full-time offer. So
Oh, okay.
like it was not exactly what I'm looking for, but it opened my eye up to this whole world of consulting, where I get thrown a random problem at me, and I gotta be fast on my feet, think of a solution, think of a way to present it, and put it into a story that people are interested in buying and being a part of it. So that completely opened my lens up, and that's how I really got into consulting.
Oh,
Sure.
so
So in your job, are you like pitching also, or are you kind of just already helping them already? They already like had a deal, and now you're just like helping them implement it versus like you're not selling it. You're not selling
I
anything,
kind of
right?
do. No, that's a really good question. I do a mix of all those
Oh, okay.
elements, where I'm helping people put together these pitch decks so that we can
Mhm.
sell products, our services. I'm also on site helping them implement it, and I'm also there helping them manage what they're working on.
Okay.
Recently, now that I'm on the bench, I've been a lot more involved in creating these pitches,
hmm.
Mhm.
understanding how can I sell this strategy, how can I sell service to a company. So I've been much more involved in there. But once I presume I get back onto a project, it's going to be a lot more heads down, do the work, control whatever we're trying to implement, and still building out relationships with the client, getting to know them, be friends with them, take them out for dinner, take them out for drinks, wine and dine them a little bit, build that connection to continue selling onwards. It's a continuous process, delivering and also being able to sell and pitch.
Hmm. Yeah. It's very interesting hearing kind of your perspective in this field. I think you talked a lot about, well, first, like you talked about that story in Accenture, having a stage presence of, and also just networking and like enjoying kind of working with people and like interacting with them. So I was kind of curious, like, was that something that was kind of like an acquired skill for you or something that you worked on for a while or something that you were just like always naturally good at? Like, where was that progression to getting those compliments like at that Accenture event?
Yeah, no, I mean, hard to believe. I mean, great question, Jason. Hard to believe back in high school and even before as a kid, super shy, right? Not the
Mm.
New Jeans song, but just incredibly shy. There we go. But no, I was terribly, very, in myself, not really engaging with a lot of other people. And what really brought me out was in high school, I made it an effort to really, start a new slate, new opportunity to meet a lot of new people, and I went out of my comfort zone a lot. One of my friends, we used to have this silly challenge, is where whenever we're out on the street having fun, they would point to a random person, like, "Hey, Wes, go talk to that person." Right. And it would usually be a challenge involves like, oh, get their number, get their name, or like ask them about their dog, ask if you take a picture with their dog. And I took it as a personal challenge. It's like, no, I'm not losing money on this. I'm gonna do it. So as I went out and I really got extremely out of my comfort zone, talking to these people, just approaching random strangers, and striking conversation, which is not the easiest thing to do in New York, where everyone like either brushes you off or just looks at you weird. But as a kid, they probably gave me the benefit of the doubt, and that really got me out of my shell. But during college, what really pushed me to the next level was, I would say, SACE in a way, where I joined as a freshman rep. And from that point on, moving up the rank and the ladder, I was exposed to so many people and so many opportunities where like I have to go up in front of a stage of like hundreds of people, and I got to say something without no prep, no nothing. I had to ad lib it, wing it, and come up with a speech introducing the event, welcoming people and whatnot. So I was caught off guard a lot of times, and that really helped me, be quick on my feet to think of a response, think of something to say, come up with a story to get people engaged. And it's something that I found I was naturally good at, but without the opportunities that I had, definitely wouldn't have happened.
Interesting. Do you remember like the first instance of those like challenges?
Yeah, no, I actually have a really funny story on that. One of the challenges was actually joining SACE at my chapter at RPI. They were handing out,
It
the
was
club.
all a bet.
It was all a bet. Right, and it was they were handing out flyers and whatnot, and the flyers that SACE was handing out at my chapter was a little calendar. It's like, oh, here's all our events for the month of September, check it out. And I didn't know anything about the club or what those meetings were. So I looked at, okay, what's the next one? Oh, it's on Sunday. What's this called? A e-board meeting. Huh, I wonder what that is, right? So let me go check that out. It sounds interesting. An e-board meeting. What is that? Like I didn't know. So I went there, and me being a little good boy, I went 30 minutes early. And I got there and the room was dark, no lights on, no nothing. And I sat there for 20 minutes in the dark on my phone, just waiting. And then the president came in at the time and looked at me and said, Wes, what the hell are you doing? Right? Because I spoke with him at the career fair. Like, what are you doing in here? It's like, oh, I saw there was an e-board meeting. I thought I'd drop by. It's like, you're sitting here in the dark? I'm like, yeah, well, my friends told me I should really check it out. So why not? So I sat there. They had their e-board meeting. I'm like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're talking about nationals. They're talking about, planning trips in October. I'm just like sitting there, twiddling my thumbs. I have no idea what they're talking about. Then they told me about the freshman rep position. And I'm like, oh, I'll pass on it. I'll pass. Right. And my friend's like, Wes, you should do it. I'm like, well, okay. If you say so, I'm not going to turn it down. And I joined as freshman rep that day onwards, and I got really involved afterwards. So it was a lot of awkward situations I put myself in. But if I didn't put myself in that situation, I never would have been where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So is that also how you started a podcast as well? Or was that something you just wanted to
Well, we're really like hammering down on this podcast. No, the podcast Sace Talk was a podcast I started. This was back 2021, right? I think
2020, I thought it was.
2020.
Yeah, 2020 was the YouTube video that I
Oh,
saw.
okay, never mind. Much earlier than I thought. It was right when COVID hit, and I'm telling you, I was bored. I was like, man, this sucks. Right? I'm home alone. I got nothing to do. I'm acing all my coursework. I've got nothing, right?
Subtle flex, you
I
said.
know. It was really easy to ace all the courses online. I don't know why, but I had a really great time, but I had too much free time. So I'm like, well, what can I do? I've been listening to a lot of podcasts at times. Like, why don't I start one myself? Right? I'm like, no, this is the classic. Everyone starts a podcast at some point in their life.
True.
Like this, but I really wanted to have an outlet to really talk to people and to give some people content to listen and engage with. And Sace Talk was focused a lot on speaking with communities, the community members within the Sace RPI group, understanding life at RPI, life at within Sace. And I got an opportunity to reconnect with a lot of alumni, talking about medical school, business school, law school, even and really just talking, which apparently I'm known to be very good at, just talking and wasting a lot of time just chatting with people. And so I'm like, why not just record it and put it on YouTube? So I had a really great, helpful e-board at the time who liked the idea. So they helped me set it up. They helped me, put together YouTube videos. But no, we had a great time. I think 14 episodes I mentioned where we just talked about random topics. I did put a lot of research into making sure we had good questions, good things to ask, good talking points. But we know I think people enjoyed them a lot. We had a lot of views. We were initially on Spotify, but then YouTube videos became the new norm. So that's
Mhm.
where most of the people saw them afterwards. But
Hmm.
CSUC was a lot of fun, but we stopped after I graduated because I'm like, all right, I got better things to do. I got the Northeast region to look after now. I can't manage a podcast too. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think like you would want to revisit doing a podcast like outside of like the SACE RPI space?
There would be interest. I won't lie. I would be interested. As to what exactly, I would need to definitely hash that out, right? I mean, a
Mhm.
podcast is only as interesting as the topics that you bring to it. So I know while I was still at RPI, a lot of people were interested, like who are alumni, what's some career paths that I could take. There was a lot of interest there. But looking at me now, where I currently am, there definitely could be topics I could flesh out, but definitely what would like to, dig deeper into that. But no, the doors are always open for me. I will never say no.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, you are good at talking. I will give you that. Okay, let's talk about adulting. Let's talk
Ooh,
about that.
spicy.
So, I mean, you've been out of school for a bit now, right? Let's see, you graduated in 2021. So about 3 years.
Oh yeah, about 3 years almost.
3 years, yeah. So how was that transition for you? Like going, well, you graduated during COVID, right?
Yeah,
But
towards
then
the tail
started
end.
working. How was that transition kind of from school life to professional adult life?
Yeah, no, I mean it was a crazy time. COVID, everything was so different, so
Mhm.
incredibly different. And it was honestly really difficult to navigate. What the hell am I supposed to do now? I graduate and that's it. There's no one else to tell you, okay, this is what you need to gotta do now. This is how it's supposed to roll. And especially in COVID, there was very little in-person activity. Everything was done from at home. I give you a call, I send you an email. So it was difficult to navigate, at least, initially, like what am I supposed to be doing other than just trying to find a job?
Mhm.
I was one of the lucky few. I was able to find my job shortly after graduating. I was able to push my start date a little bit later into, I think, no, September is when I started. So I had from May to September to really, figure out what I'm doing. And during that time, I lived back at home. My parents lived elsewhere, so I was home alone for the most part. And I was stuck trying to figure out, what are my hobbies? What do I like to do? So it was definitely a weird situation to be in. So I explored a lot in regards to hobbies. I picked up photography for a good bit, doing
Mhm.
freelance work, selling photos to newspapers. I didn't pay that well. It was like what, 3 cents a photo or something less.
Oh.
Hmm.
Yeah, really, really low rates, but I was able to really, take a lot of photos, explore, do all that. And one of the most important things during that time, I was able to reconnect with family. Just see some family members who, a little bit further away than New York. But given I only had a few months, I had really had to figure out, like, oh my God, what am I doing? How is this going to work? But time flew way too quickly during those few months. I ended up, getting and joining the company pretty quickly. But I was able to kind of hash out, where I stood within myself after graduating, figuring out like, okay, this is my my goals for the next 5 years, right? Or at least the next 10 years. I told myself, like, I want to get to this company. I want to start working. I want to get promoted within 2 years. I want to, go back to school eventually. I want to do this. I want to move out in 2 years. And thankfully, I've been very successful with my goals. I
Mm,
think I've achieved all of my 3 year goals that I set for myself. Once I graduated, moving out, getting my own apartment, getting promoted, being able to see my grandparents, at least once a year for those who live further away. So I've achieved a lot of my goals, and I'm looking back now. I'm very happy I was able to figure that out at that time. But then I was very confused and very lost. So I'm thankful I was able to set up those goals, at least small goals, but they helped me set the direction I wanted to take myself in.
mhm. Nice. Well, congrats on
Yeah.
staying on track with these goals. I think that's definitely like a frequent topic that we have here at the adult table. And a lot of times too, like coming the struggles that come with trying to reach those goals in general. But it seems like you just put a lot of big goals for yourself or like big expectations. So like keeps you motivated through those times or like to get to those goals or kind of like what is your process and thinking about it once you kind of set them up for yourself.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, Jason. I mean, I throughout college, I've always had a very, and I'm now able to admit it. I had a very toxic expectations for myself. It was very unhealthy.
Mm,
There was one point, I think it was during junior year of college, where I was so stressed out, incredibly, just ripping my hair out kind of level of stress, right?
okay.
I mean, I'm working I'm working on a dual major. I'm leading my chapter. I'm also president of two other clubs on campus at the same time. I had two part-time jobs, and I had to juggle a relationship on top of that, right? And that was a lot to handle on my plate. But I continued to push myself through it because I always thought, if no one else can, it's got to be me, right? I
Mm,
got to be able to do it. If no one else, it's got to be me. And that put so much pressure on me to do something that was just very unhealthy, right? Staying up late nights, working, coming home late from my part-time job at a restaurant, and then having so much schoolwork to juggle, so much chapter stuff to plan out, and it took its toll on me, and I ended up having to like take a step back, and like some of the stuff has gotta go, gotta take a break from it, and from that point on, I never really picked back up that momentum that I had at that time. But thankfully, after I graduated, I went to, I went to go get therapy. I went to talk it out. Why did I set these really toxic and, unachievable goals for myself, just to put myself through, such turmoil. I haven't figured it all out, but I've know enough now that what my limits are and what healthy goals I should set for myself. And what keeps me motivated, to answer your question is I always want to see myself do better. I'm always challenging myself, right? It's always a bet like, oh, I can't do that. Like, you want to bet? Like, I'll do it. Right? Like, that's my internal monologue. I'm just like, yeah, you can't do it. Yeah, like, you want to bet about it?
Myself.
Right? And just keep going, surpassing my limits and trying to keep doing more. But now it's definitely within a much more healthier boundary,
Hmm.
and knowing, like, you know what, I'm not gonna take that bet. Like, that's a little bit too extreme. Let me just tone it down a little bit. But it definitely, it's a mentality of I want to keep improving. I want to keep getting better at what I do and becoming a better person.
Hmm.
That's my motivator right now is just continuous self improvement. That every time I meet someone again after a few months, you're like, wow, like Wes, you've learned a lot. You learned so much more. You become a better person, and constantly wanting to improve myself.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like we all kind of have that mindset when we're in college, especially I feel like in the East Coast too. It's very grinding. Like you're like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna do it, put my head down, do all this stuff. And then you get burnout from that. So I feel like from you, like did you experience I mean, you probably experienced burnout in college, but in your professional life, did you experience burnout from work at all? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, no, it's always creeping around the corner, waiting for that moment where you think you're gonna get past a hurdle, but it hits you, with baseball bat, the moment you take that next step. I know in my current work, my previous project, there were a period of time where it was crunch time. Everything just came at you all at once.
Mm.
I was waking up at like 5 a.m. for 6 a.m. calls. I had to go back home, and prep for, 8 p.m., 10 p.m. calls, work on weekends. And I'm like, man, I'm rounding out, 80 something hours a week. Crazy. And I thought I can keep doing it. Think about the bonus, think about, the promotion. And that really just like, man, I can't do that no more. Because it took a lot mentally on myself, where I had to keep pushing myself to go beyond expectations. I was very much a yes person to my manager at the client side, where, Wes, can you set up a meeting for 8 a.m. on Saturday? Like, yes, I can do it.
Mm.
Right. And it was that same mentality where, I'm working with a client. I want to get the client's approval. I want them to give me good reviews, but at what expense? And, that was myself. So burnout definitely hit me hard at that point. But thankfully, I had a good manager who saw it before I saw it. And it's like, hey, Wes, you got a lot of vacation days left. Like, use it. Like, I'm calling you out now. Like, use these vacation days. Like, I'll give you a list of places you can go. Just use it. So I ended up taking a very good trip earlier last year, and I think around October, trip went around to Europe with my girlfriend for about a week.
Ooh.
And so I think that was the break I needed. I came back and took a look at the meetings I had before my vacation and the meetings I had after my vacation. I was like, man, like, I can't do that no more. So I set better boundaries with my work and like, hey, we don't really need the 8 o'clock on Saturday. Like, how about we talk about it on Monday? The work's not going anywhere. It's still going to be here.
Mhm.
But let's just talk about Monday instead of on Saturday. So I'm still working on perfecting my boundaries with work, but it's definitely a big improvement from where I was, 6 months ago.
Mm. Oh, we love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like the idea around consulting is that like high stress environment. And I guess can you just talk about more about like this balance like that you're having comparative to like I don't know, like your coworkers or your team, like do you feel like you're seeing them going through that too, or is it hard to like set those boundaries knowing that that's kind of like the culture, or I'm not sure if that really is the culture kind of at your place.
Yeah, no, it's definitely sometimes challenging. I mean, for a long time, I've always told myself the end goal for my career is C-suite somewhere, right? Somewhere
Or
I'm sitting up there, high table, someone brings me my coffee. I don't got to go make it myself. That's the ideal state, right? But then I see the people who are C-suite and they get worked incredibly intense. And there definitely is that pressure. I'm like, man, if I'm gonna make it, I gotta be able to do that, right? And so it's definitely challenging to to see my goal being lived through by other people and seeing how hard they really have to put in work to maintain it, or at least get to
mm,
that point. But no, I've been very thankful and very lucky to have really good managers who not only look out for the work, but also look out for the people they work under. So that we do a lot of hard work, definitely a lot of intense work, but we also make sure that we're not hurting ourselves because of it, right? And it was my manager who told me like, "Hey, Wes, work's gonna be here on Monday. Just forget about it, right? No one's really gonna lose their minds if it's not done by Saturday evening."
mm,
So there's that unhealthy goal that I have by seeing the where I want to be in C-suite and how they're working, but I've been kind of put back in my place by my managers like, Wes, like, relax. You're only 24, 25, right? You're not gonna get their C-suite at next year. Work your way up, learn as much as you can now while you're still young. Ask questions, but don't try to kill yourself over it. Right, it'll come eventually, but take your time to get up there.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
That makes sense. Damn. Okay. Damn, C-suite. Okay, you're gonna be CEO.
It was, I mean, man, it's a nice title, right? Like C,
Yeah, it
ooh,
is
it's
really
comfy. You
nice.
get the Eames chairs. You get your coffee brought to you. You get your fancy pies. I'm like, oh, I like that. Fancy.
Damn, Wes is like it's like all about the non-work shit. You're like, oh wait, I'm not gonna work at all during that time. Gonna have a nice
I get to fly
office. I'm gonna get
business.
the private jet.
I mean, it's about the perks, you work so hard to get there, so you might as well.
Yeah,
That's cool.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah, so Wes, I really appreciate kind of your perspective with like your professional world, teaching us a little more about the consulting world and what your mindset is for setting all these goals for yourselves or just like improving on yourself. But one of the things that I think both of us were really excited for was to just get to know you a little better as a person. I feel like in the time that I've known you since I joined the Northeast team, like we joined the same year, but every time I talk to you, I feel like you were involved in some other like hobby or some other interest, or you just always had like some sort of knowledge or experience in like some other realm or something that I always found really interesting. So we're hoping to kind of dive into that. Normally we kind of do like this like rapid fire type questioning. So just have a bunch of miscellaneous questions for you. I know you mentioned like your trip to Europe, and I know previously one of the cool things that I remember hearing from you is that you visited all seven continents before in your travels. So I was kind of wondering what you would say is one of the most unique places that you've been to and what's next on the bucket list for you.
Oh yeah, that's always a fun story to bring up because no one ever believes me. Right? I'm like, no way. Like they start counting. It's like one, two. Like, what's the seventh one? But no, definitely one of the cooler ones is shockingly, it's also been popping up on my TikTok. The trip down to Antarctica.
Wait.
It's a wild journey. It's like what, a 2 week long cruise from the
Ooh.
tip of South America all the way down there. And there's a lot of documentation on it now. Now that it's been a lot more popularized, and a lot of influencers are doing it. They've made videos about it. But back when I was a wee lad, about yay tall, I didn't know anything, right? I was just going along the flow and kind of figuring it out. But from what I remember, huge waves, really bad storms, a lot of bad winds. And it was more of a technicality. We made it to this little rock, this huge rock that came out of nowhere. Like, hey, technically this is part of it. So everyone get off, take a step on it, take a pebble, toss it into the ocean, and get back on the ship. Right. So on technicality, I did make it there, but I was very young at the time, so it didn't leave too much of an impression, but it makes for a great story.
Hmm.
But everywhere else, North America, no, I've been, yeah, hopefully. Europe, Asia, Oceania, South America, Africa, made smaller trips there, but definitely, now that I'm older and I have money that I can, throw at it, I would love to revisit everything again and rewrite that story again with a new perspective.
So where's the next place you're trying to go?
Ooh, next place that I am heading is to
I'm gonna pull up his
Central
itinerary.
America in August. We
Oh,
have a cruise planned, me and my parents. My girlfriend's tagging along. Later this summer, we're going to take a cruise down to Central America, Honduras, Panama, Cuba. So it's gonna be a great time. I'm looking forward to it.
that's cool. Do you like cruises? I've never been on a cruise.
My mother's a big fan because she's like, I don't have to cook, I don't have to clean, I don't have to look after any of you guys. You guys do your own thing. Like it's great. So it's definitely more for my parents than it
Okay.
is for me. I enjoy it just because I don't have to do anything. I'm hungry, I go up and get food. I want to work out, I go to the gym. A lot of activities, but it definitely is a time to really get away and get off the internet, get off my phone, and just relax. I haven't been on a cruise since a few years now, so I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Okay. Eat. Okay, next one is we know you're from New York. You're a New Yorker. What's your favorite thing to do in New York typically?
Favorite thing to do in New York as a native or to bring as a tourist?
Oh, I guess either. Both. You can answer both.
Okay, all right. As a native, let's start with that. I know the memes about getting breakfast sandwiches at delis and bodegas is always a
Mm.
thing. So I wanted to share what I like to get.
Ooh,
My
ooh.
favorite sandwiches, right? I mean, the classic is your bacon, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper,
Oh
ketchup
yeah.
on a roll, right? Can't go wrong with that. But recently, I have discovered I am mildly lactose intolerant,
Ah,
and cheese is no longer a good friend of mine. Constantly we have beef. So my new go-to order, and this is something a little bit interesting. There's a deli right across the street from me. It's owned by this FJ guy, Chinese guy,
mm.
and I always go up to him. I want bacon, egg, hold the cheese. I don't want cheese. Get me a Jamaican patty on it, but instead of a roll, get me a scallion pancake and put that shit in there.
Dang, that sounds good.
Wait, that's like the bread on top?
It
The
wraps.
scallion pancakes, like they cut it open so that it's like a pita roll, right? You stuff it in there. So it's
Oh.
eggs, bacon, salt, pepper, ketchup with a Jamaican patty in a scallion pancake.
That sounds good.
I'm a sucker for Jamaican patties. I've had them
Yeah.
at school lunches and everything, but a scallion pancake instead of a roll, less carbs, twice as flavorful. So my favorite as a native is I go there, I get my breakfast, and I go to work. But to take a tourist, what I like to do is I like to take them to get food. Right, I'm a big food guy. I love to eat. And most of the people I take around, they also love to eat as well. So I try to figure out what they like, what they like to eat, what their cuisine is their favorite, and I try to come up with a little nice food crawl to go around all over
Mm.
New York to get. Recently, I brought my friend out to get a pizza crawl. I mean, New York pizza, dollar slices,
Yeah.
your expensive slices. It's all over the city, but we went to I think 7 different pizza stands through Manhattan, Brooklyn, and deep into Long Island. So it
Wow.
was a whole day thing. But
Long Island.
we went all the way out to Long Island.
What?
Trust me, Jason, you come back down here, I take you out. I treat you nice, okay?
Wait, so which area has the best pizza? The best New York pizza?
A lot of people are going to say Brooklyn. A lot of people are
Okay.
going to say Brooklyn has the best pizza. For me, the best pizza is the closest pizza.
Oh,
Right. I'm not gonna go from Queens. I'm in a story right now. I'm not gonna go down from Queens to Brooklyn
that's
for a
true.
pizza. Right. The best pizza is
Mm.
the one I can call up and get in 5 minutes when I got the munchies. So it's always the closest one.
Okay. So no holding back on a Domino's or a
Okay, well, we draw the line of Domino's. I don't know about that.
No
We buy
cheating.
local here in this household. We buy local.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, you kind of mentioned like being a foodie and kind of having your spots. Is there like a very unique meal that you've had either in New York or just like traveling around that kind of sticks with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of food. I went to culinary school when I was younger. I did that for years now, so I have that background. Hopefully, I know what I'm looking at. But I am a big fan of more of the technical side of food.
Mm.
Skills, gastronomy. How to cook rather than the food itself. But me and my girlfriend, we love to eat and we love to, really explore new cuisines and try new restaurants. So one of the challenges that we've been doing is eat around the world in just New York. And it's been proven possible. Every country in the world has a restaurant or at least a representation within New York. So it's possible to every 200 something countries is all done within New York City. But one that I do want to call out, I've been a longtime fan of, and I think Jason, you when you came back to New York, you tried it was a Uyghur
Oh
cuisine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a Western Chinese, so all the way in the western side most province of China, where you have Muslim Chinese folks living, and they do a very unique blend of Chinese food with Middle Eastern twists on it, and it's incredible. They also have a great story. I love talking to the cooks and the owners, listening about their story. Our listeners, if you're listening, please, I encourage you to check them out. Uyghur Cuisine in New York, they got multiple locations and they do amazing work.
How do you spell that?
It's Uygher, Uyghur.
Oh,
That
okay.
was actually like such a fantastic meal. I've like
Really?
never heard of that cuisine before.
Yeah.
Well,
I've
one, it
never.
was just kind of cool to hear about a little bit of the culture and just like kind of what that community is going through. Like now, it was just like all very foreign to me, but just like the food experience in general was really, really good. I was like telling my parents about it when I came home. They didn't know about it, and like all the people that I saw, the rest of New York, I was like, I definitely want to try to get this again.
Because I think they're not too big in other cities. They only have a small presence, even in New York. So if when asked, I always try to promote them just to get them a little bit more attention, a little bit more focus on what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I wonder if I could do like an eat around the world thing in LA. I feel like it's doable as well, but things are more spread out here too.
Just more driving.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, the next one, let's see. Your last impulse buy.
Last impulse buy was a new phone. I've been called out so many times for bad photos, blurry photos. My camera's oily. I've been called out way too many times about my phone by my girlfriend, and she's been trying to get me to get an iPhone, but I'm stuck on making that switch, mostly
Oh,
because if I make that switch, I
yeah.
lose all my game data on the Google Play Store, and my records for Flappy Bird, my records for Bejeweled and Candy Crush all get wiped, and I have to and that's what's holding me back. So I'm like, I don't know about that. But I just got the new Samsung what's it, 24?
Oh, they're already on 24 right now?
Yeah, it's on the 20, it's the 24
Holy.
now. So I made that impulse buy. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna use my Christmas bonus. Let's get it.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. All right. I've been requested to ask you this question. Obviously, not including me, but who is your favorite person that was on the Northeast team the same time as you?
My favorite person on the
Damn.
team.
You're about to get some real heat if
Aside
you
from
whatever
Jason,
your
right?
answer.
No, I said it's got to be someone else.
It's got to be someone else.
Who requested this?
It
So
has been requested. I have the receipts. Okay.
so there are two people that come to mind. I hope that's okay. I'm giving two answers. There's the person I respect a lot, and the person I enjoy working with the most. The person I respect the most would be John. John, I think working with him, it was always great to work with him. He's always been a very fun person to work with. So John, if you're listening, I love you. He's been a great resource, especially when I was stepping up into RM. Just trying to hear from him and his experience, and he gave me a lot of good advice when we were down in Atlanta. We had a good drink together, and we had a lot of good talk, and just trying to understand what it really took to be an RM and to lead the team. And John, if you're listening, I appreciate you a lot, and hope I get to see you again. And for the second part of my answer, the person I enjoy working with the most, this person I worked with her for so many years now. She was part of my e-board back at RPI, but Michelle Ling. She was also from RPI. She was what 1 year my junior, so she was on my e-board. She's been a close friend for a long time. So she's seen my bullshit. She's know what I've been up to. She no stranger to that, but no, she's stuck by ever since. And I think she's always a pleasure to work with. And everything I do, I can always rely on her to help me achieve it.
Wow. Oh, we love that. We love them both. But
That's so
also,
sweet.
this is why Michelle requested this question.
Oh,
She just
no
wanted
way!
Did you know that it was gonna be her?
I thought it was gonna be Eric or Maisha, but no. Oh, that's good. If you're
Funny.
listening,
You got your bases covered.
awesome, yeah.
All right. So also like well, you mentioned you had a lot of you somehow went to culinary school. What? I was like, wait, what? But I wanted to ask you about your other, I guess, hobbies and other stuff you like to do in your spare time. You mentioned like photography and all this other stuff, but just general like other things, like what are your other interests and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, hopefully you can see it in my background. I'm a big fan of collecting Gundam,
Mm.
building little model kits, putting together, cool robots. No, they're cool. I'm just a big sucker for them. I've always been a fan of robots and Transformers, and that whole genre. It excites me a lot. So I'm a big collector of that. I build plastic model kits in my spare time. Like you mentioned, Jenny, I love photography. I think my love for it comes from my girlfriend. She introduced me to taking photos. I used to hate getting my photos taken. I thought I wasn't as pretty as I thought I was. So I always shied away from it. But she helped me capture and help me realize my best angles.
Mm.
And I now have a deep appreciation for it. So I now love photos. Cooking, like you said, I went to culinary school, more of an after school program where I was taught very traditional French style of cooking, which, a lot of people look at me like, oh, I see you like to cook, but you don't cook Asian food. And like, yeah, I cook a lot of Western, French food. Recently, I've been trying to learn more about Mexican. Or a lot of more indigenous Central American cuisine, and learning more about the techniques they have and how they cook. But a big hobby that came from that is I like to collect culinary utensils, namely knives. I have I'm starting to build out my collection of knives and cutlery that I've collected from around the world, and framing it all over my kitchen. So
Ooh.
I have knives I've taken, from Germany, from France. Next year when I go to Japan, I'm bringing back at least 5 different pairs of knives. TSA is
Yeah.
going to look at me weird, but I have a backstory. Promise. But small stuff like that, I think, is unique and interesting. So hopefully, that hobby will continue to stay on and won't break the wallet.
Cool.
Sam and I went to Japan in the fall, and like she had been there before, and like the one thing that she was like certain that she like needed to get done when she was there was to get knives and bring them back. So like we went to this like one area in Tokyo that's like I think there's like a bunch of different stores centered around like kitchen utensils slash like just like general cooking materials, I guess. I don't know how best to describe that.
Mhm.
But yeah, those like the quality and like the craftsmanships of those knives were like incredible. And I don't know anything about knives, but just seeing it like in
I'll take
general was really cool to see.
I Japan soon.
I mean, I think I know which area you're talking about, Jason. I think it's called Kapebashi Street. It's like this whole street just dedicated
Yes,
to
yes.
the cooking. Yeah, no, I plan to go there. I've been telling my girlfriend I want to get one of the giant tuna knives that they use to cut open tuna. It looks like a katana, and
Oh
I
yeah,
can't get a
yeah,
katana because that's illegal and it's also like a few $100s. But I want to get a tuna knife that looks like a katana and just lug that home. TSA is gonna give me the most shit for it, but I don't care. I want it.
yeah.
Okay.
Jeez. Yeah, you got to get a big enough suitcase to fit all
Yeah.
that.
I gotta mail it back home.
Okay, I have a few questions, but I'll let you answer one of the three questions.
Oh boy, the pressure's on.
Okay, so you kind of talked about this with your photography. So first question, option one is why are you a catfish? The second question is what is your biggest pain from being a Knicks fan? And then the third question is are you good at poker?
I can do all three. I'll rapid fire them. Why? The first one, I'm not a catfish. I'm just naturally beautiful. You just don't see me with, you got to wipe your glasses. I think they're a little bit smudged if you don't think. Second question, worst part of being a Knicks fan is everything. Every year I just get heartbroken and more heartbroken. And it's like a toxic relationship. I say I won't come back, but every year I'm like, we got this in the
This
bag.
is the year.
This has to be it. This has to be it, right? In every trade that they make, I just rip out a few strands of my hair every time. Every silly trade they make, I'm just like, why? Knicks fan, it's everything. It has to be everything. The last question: am I good at poker? Only one way to find out. Only one way to find. You got to play me to find out.
Ooh.
What's the
What up,
minimum?
Jody, Manasri, Randy, and Umay? If you're listening, we got to play again. You can't say anything. I've been practicing.
Yeah, word on the street is that Wes is a frequent loser at poker.
Really?
I make big moves in poker. I make big moves.
You
Sometimes they're
can't
not
say
good
you
moves, but they're big
slander
moves.
Wes. Have to prove them wrong.
Yeah. So the next trip we have, you know who you are. Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. So, one last thing we would like to ask you before we wrap up the episode in the theme of our podcast, the adult table. What is one thing that you did recently that made you feel like a quote unquote real adult? Or what is one adult thing you wish you knew sooner?
Yeah, no. One adult thing, I mean, I've not too recently, but I've been doing for a little while is giving back to my parents. And no, I know it hurts me every time to say it. It brings a little tear to my eye, but I can see my parents getting old. And it makes me a little sad every time. I look at my dad, I look at my mom, and they can't do the same things that they used to do when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So I mean, ever since I got my first paycheck, I give them a portion, a fraction of it. Send it over to my mom. She doesn't use it. I tell her you can use it. Like I know you've been looking at your Gucci handbags for a long time, mom. Like you can use it, but she's like, no, I'll save it. I'm gonna put it into a savings account and let it accrue interest for a deposit for your first home. So like, Mom, you don't have to do that. Like I got my own savings, but I make it an effort. Every paycheck, first of the month, I send over a lot of money over to my mom, and she pockets it and keeps it. So that's one thing that really made me feel like an adult, is to give back to my parents.
Hmm.
The one thing I wish I knew earlier was my finances. I've always been terrible with my finances, right? I mean, I would go to a bar and like, oh yeah, no, $30 a shot. Like, yeah, why not, right? And I just blow out my whole paycheck there. But being better with my finances, better with my paycheck, the money that comes in has always been something I wish I knew earlier, but now I do. And on that note, I'm also leading a workshop this coming week at NERC down in Arlington, Virginia. I'm leading a workshop on corporate finances for new grads. I presume by this time this podcast comes out, NERC will already be over. So I hope you all like that workshop. Please message me if you want to learn more. But as of right now, I'm gearing up for that workshop this coming weekend.
Awesome. I think that's pretty
Yeah,
much
that's
all
all.
we know. Yeah, thank you for your insight. That's cool. Well, I'm kind of curious about this finance workshop. Maybe I'll have to ask you questions about that later myself.
Come to
Uh,
NERC. We got a lot of room.
I'm in LA. Maybe I'll have to catch you at some other time when I'm back in New York.
Oh yeah,
Because-
always.
yeah. But yeah, just wanted to thank you again, Wes, for coming on the Adult Table podcast. If you want to plug any socials.
Yes, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. I am Wesley J. Chow. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Add me on LinkedIn, Wesley Chow. Hopefully my name shows up somewhere. But you can find me anywhere. I'm always down to chat, always down to talk. I won't charge you anything if you want to ask me questions. So it's always a good time to chat with people. So please reach out. I'm always available.
Yeah. Don't forget about that SACE RPI SACE
Oh my God.
Yeah, we'll link it.
Oh my goodness.
We'll link it in our socials as well.
Oh man. But Jason, Jenny, thank you guys for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on the adult table.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been really fun, Wes. I know like we've been on the team together and then like just been friends after, but it's always nice to just kind of get to just sit down, get to know you even more, and learn a little bit more about what you've been doing and kind of I don't know. I feel like I've always been impressed by kind of what you've done in like your professional world and kind of picking up like RM and stuff like that. So it's cool to kind of just hear that breakdown.
Absolutely.
So really appreciate you coming on. But yeah, for the listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you know when episodes come out, and you can follow us on Instagram at the Adult Table Podcast for updates. I'm Jason Chin.
And I'm Jenny Chung, and we'll see you next time at the Adult Table. Thanks for listening.